Welcome to the Queen Divas, Queens of Fitness podcast. Join your hosts, three-time WBFF world champions and WBFF royalty, Alicia Gowans and Stephanie Ayala McHugh, as we explore all things female health, training, competing, mindset, and living the fitness life every day.
So this is an incredible event, today's podcast. You are now speaking with the first and only five-time world champ, Stephanie Ayala McHugh.
Oh my God. Oh, I can't even. I still can't
I need like
believe
this
it.
drum roll behind me. I'm not shocked at all. I knew you could do this, and I knew that it was, there was a high possibility. I also knew you were going to have some really great, competition on the stage. So I knew that there was going to be some good physiques up there. And so I know you've always been quite humble and always said that you're going to do your best to win it, but you've never kind of gone, I've got it,
No, I'm not that person. I'm not that type of, no matter even if I feel like I've got it, I will never, ever verbally, ever say it because, words are very powerful. And I think a lot of competitors leading into the shows, and please pardon my voice, everybody, as you guys can hear, post-show, I did lose my voice. I did a little celebration, but not only just the celebration side of things. I think that me just pushing my immune system the day after the show, I just really compromised myself and I still haven't got better. So I do apologize about my raspy voice, but we're still on here. I'm still feeling much better than the last couple of days. So I agreed to the podcast with Alicia. And my God, what a freaking week, Ali, like just being able to see you. That was honestly one of my highlights.
I actually am so stoked that we went. I said this to Christos. I was like, it was a really big deal for us, a really big, it was a really big sacrifice to make when traveling with the newborn. And we went, for anyone that doesn't realize, we did not have an au pair. We did not have
family
with us. It was literally just Christos and I, and you got to respect, right? The Christos
I was amazed.
So
I was amazed.
He did so well. I am so proud of him.
He not only did amazing, he did he went above and beyond what I've ever seen from a first-time father. I was like, holy moly, Ali, like he's just stepped up so much. And not only that, like just to be able to see the admiration and like the love that comes out of his eyes when he's taking care after of George. Oh, I melted my.
And look, I want to take a moment too to say thank you to so many amazing people in this brand and this family of ours that were just so super cute with George and really made a fuss about him. The girls in the beauty services team, who they know I love them to death. They're rock stars in my eyes on every level, all of them. But they gave us some great gifts and I can't wait to put them on him as he grows into them. You guys got us all of the cool sporting outfits. They were incredible. So, look, everyone was just so...
He deserves it.
It was so great to meet some of the new
I couldn't.
I've not
get
had
over it
in person. So it's been we really
that's what I think the biggest part, I think, was being able to see you guys in person and physically having you guys there at the show. And I kept telling that to Christos and Alicia, like, you guys are my family. So you guys being here, it just feels that much more special. And just having you guys around, and we haven't had you guys at the shows.
Well, look, last year was the only Worlds where you and I didn't do it together, and I wasn't there. You know what I mean?
You weren't backstage with me this year either. But I will say one of the best experiences too was being able to see you front row. I've never been able to see you while I'm on stage, and I was able to see you front row. I was like, oh my gosh, like if this isn't already something that is easier to do in performance, because when you're comfortable with somebody, right? Like, and you already see a familiar face front row, and this applies to any competitor that goes on stage. If you see, your mom, your dad, your spouse, your best friend up at that front row cheering for you, like you just get this extra smile, you get this extra oomph of just confidence, and you're just feeling so good. So just being able to see you in the crowd, I was like, oh my God, Ali's here.
I loved being able to watch you. And look, on that note, actually, something that I really tried to make sure that I did as a judge on the panel was give everyone time. So make sure that I was watching everyone at some point. And even if there was someone that just, oh my God, took my breath away from the minute they stepped on stage, I made sure not to let anyone else feel like they didn't still get some of my time and attention and, you know, my thought process around what they're bringing, because you should have seen my notes. My notes were like War and Peace, because I wanted to remember each person as much as possible, because there's so many beautiful faces and great physiques on that stage, so many outstanding bikinis and suits, and you can kind of lose sight of people, right? So I try to make notes so that if anyone did, you know, sort of see me or ask me questions, I was able to go, send me a photo, let me see what you're wearing, and I'll remember. So I also really made it a point, because I know for a fact when I've been on stage before, and you'll definitely second this notion, it's really daunting if you're looking down at a judging panel and there's no one smiling or no one looking at you at all, right? So I make sure that at all times
I always am that person too.
And I'm trying to witness everyone, and then I'm giving smiles to everyone wherever I can to let them know, hey, look, you look great. You're performing great. Like, you know, don't be nervous, girl. Like, that's the vibe I was trying to give.
That's the welcoming smile you had, right? Like, no matter, I know you. And like, that's the thing. Like, no matter who could have been on that panel, like who could have been up there, like it's coming down to how the person really performs on stage. And I think being a judge on previous shows, gosh, at a world stage, like that's next level though. I can't even, you know, fathom the not just the pressure, but also just the having to really dissect certain things from individuals that are so close, because at any world show, it's very, very close. And I think
down
that this
to the wire in that top 5.
Oh yeah,
and for
from fashion to walk to smile to makeup, like the smallest things can make or break you. And when it comes down to, you know, a world's championships, all the top 10 look phenomenal. Like no matter where they're in the top 10.
I actually said this in my story. I said this in my story this morning, right? That bikini lineup, I mean, all of the top 10, they're stunning. Like there is not a single face up there that is, you know, not worthy of being a front cover of a magazine. Like
a world championship class.
Our brand is full of it. Our brand is full of beauty, but in particular, that bikini lineup, it was just next level. And do you know how hard that is when you're sitting there and it's like, wow, they're all ridiculous.
You feel harsh. Honestly, you feel really harsh because really you have to like dissect them to the most criticism you possibly could, right? Yeah. Like, and it comes down to, and I know this because coming into any show, you have to realize that all these people are going to give their best. I mean, we're not going across the world, right? Like to just bring half-ass performance and just to, you know, say, I want to be second place, third place, so on and so forth. Like you're coming to win. And because the world is like that, I think that so many people put that pressure on themselves to must win. I must place top 3, must place top 5. And just in reality, with the caliber of athletes that show up to worlds, a top 10 placing just finished really good is incredible.
Like a top 10 is an incredible feat. And I say this to all of our team all the time. When you're going to make a pro debut, your goal should be top 10. That should be the goal. Like it should be top 10. That was my first goal.
That was what I wanted in my first Worlds.
If you make that top 10, that's an international ranking. That places you in the top 10 of the world. It's huge, right? From there, then you take feedback. You take, you know, the comparison photos, you look at your lineup, you discuss it and dissect it and debrief it with your coach. You create a game plan and you come back bigger and better and you chase top 5. Or top 3. Like that should be the progression. If you're lucky enough to walk in and take something out earlier, then mate, that's awesome. But it shouldn't be an expectation because it is that difficult at that level. It is like to the wire, really comes down difficult.
To your off season, as I can really kind of reflect on too. And I think that if you just go onto the stage and then you just want to come back, you're going to come back the same, right? If you don't go into that drawing board, like you said, with your coach and actually look for those improvements that you can make, you're never really going to continue leveling up to that maybe top 5 or to that top 3, because that really resonates.
And the prime example of this, is Afton. Look at
Afton. Exactly where I was leading you guys. I was going to lead that.
Right? Let's actually dissect this, because she did a great post today where she talked about how she'd never really taken off season seriously until now, right? She had never rivaled you to the point she did this time.
Oh man, I'm gonna get goosebumps right now.
And the secret to her success was the fact she took the off season more seriously and grew, and then dieted better for longer. Like she fucking crushed it.
She did a back-to-back prep, you know, like one for me as her coach, you know, going in from her going amateur to pro, from pro winning her first pro title to her second pro title, right? And being able to place fourth in the world to third in the world to now second in the world.
This goes leveling up. She keeps leveling up.
Absolutely. And each year she gets better, but the big missing key here, biggest part was that she never would take an off season. Yeah. She would always go back and just take her time off and come back for a prep. And I would always get on to her, and I was so frustrated with her. Girl, you were so talented. Like, what are you doing? Like, you've got to continue. You can't just stop and start. And for years, I've been freaking trying to get her to just continue doing an off season. And, you know, last year was the first year that I think her coming off stage, she just was really ready to take an off season, but even then wasn't really fully committed. She started the reverse and then was like, okay, coach, let's do this. I'm ready to build. And then 3 months later, I'm like, girl, you haven't trained. You haven't hit weight. You haven't got into the gym. What's going on?
Holidays. Do you know how many people are going to be listening to this and be like, this bitch, like, she gets on stage, looks like this, rivals Stephanie, and she admittedly didn't train for 3 months.
No, this guys, though, this is a lead up though. Like, this is the proudest I've been in an off season for her. This is the first time she actually took a quote unquote off season. Imagine. And this is what I keep trying to tell her. Like, she you know how much ahead you would have been if you would have started this 3-4 years ago when you did your first worlds. Like, imagine you would be a freaking 2-time world champion. You would have beat me, Hattie, and all of the freaking above, Andrea, if you would have continued just working your ass off the way that I know you can during a prep. But that off season has always been the missing key. And this last year, her taking just a half-assed off season, guys, look at what she was able to do. And not just a half-assed off season. Then she was able to do back-to-back shows. As you guys know, her history this year alone, she decided she wanted to go into wellness. She wanted to give that category out a try, you know, which was her coming off of actually doing, let's say, a little small build at the beginning of the year. And then she's like, wait, coach, I really think I have too much lower body to be able to, you know, continue in fitness. I'm like, girl, do what you want. Like, if we want to go into wellness, let's try and let's see where, you know, the body takes us. She did a phenomenal, you know, prep for that. She was able to it was fun training her for it because it was just a complete different approach, as you know, from a fitness model to a wellness model, from her, you know, actual background. It was just a really good strategy to bring her in fuller and, you know, to reduce the upper body training to where even then alone, guys, she did all of this and then left Bahamas and started doing a full-on prep for fitness to just make sure we brought up the actual areas that needed to be brought up for fitness. And my God, I could have been in tears on show week leading into her day.
If I'm honest though, I actually think the fact that she took time off of the upper body to hit the wellness approach actually
grew her legs and glutes for sure
for fitness, because she brought up the lower half, which was the area that you always dominated her on. But now it's really close, right? So she's getting so it's like it actually went in her favor. The other thing was that her upper body was actually a little bit bigger. And so this brought it down a fraction. And we, you know, and I think it's worthwhile we just
more symmetrical.
Everyone listening to this really hears what I'm about to say. The brand and the fitness category is not about being jacked and huge. It is actually, and this has been really cemented with the placings this year. I hope everyone's listening, that it is actually about symmetry. It is actually about conditioning, and it is actually about a more petite, muscular, dense type frame. It is not about having big, thick bellies that don't get conditioned and or look like they're enhanced, because an enhanced looking physique just will not place. It just won't. It will not get in the top place. If you come in looking super dry with Google veins everywhere, you're probably going to push out. If you come in looking androgynous in the shoulders and your lower half is disproportionate, you're not going to be in the top. If you come
proportions,
yes, creating as above is below, beautiful symmetry, it's going to go against you. So I think really take stock when you can assess even Steph's physique a few years ago to now, how much size she's lost. Because
my God.
That on purpose.
Oh man, guys, I looked up to Ali. When I saw her, she hugged me and she's like, "Oh my God!" I can feel it. I can feel it in her aura. I'm like, I know, I'm small. I know.
I'm not negative about it. I love it. And to be honest with you, we had this conversation in my last show where I said to you, that's it. I'm not training upper body because I just need to look at a weight and I grow, right? And in particular, because of my background, years and years and years at high level, athletics, it's like I literally grow muscle quite quickly. And look, even now as a really super advanced trainee, I recover muscle really quickly. So if I've lost some, I get it back pretty quick. But I did not train upper body at all for 18 months after that last show. And I've only just started to touch it a bit to try to condition coming into.
And I just saw you and you maintained all your mass. You actually have really good proportions. Yeah. All really Hallie has is a little body fat that she's for feeding baby George. And that's about it. Like
get rid of the baby fluff. But I can say this.
Not in a place, although Ali, let me say that though, because a lot of women I see postpartum and you're like only going on 6 weeks postpartum. Yeah. Like you're in a position.
Couldn't move because of the C-section.
C-section.
I still had stitches in.
She looks so damn good, y'all. Like I can't even get over her. Like she was such in a good position. I'm like, okay, she looks better than off season of some of our pros, which is sad. Other pros, but just saying, like, goodness gracious, she just came from having a baby, flew across the country, had a C-section to have the baby, has the baby at hand, isn't stopped like actual training. She's still like freaking active. I was watching her just left and right, just literally nonstop, trying to take care of anybody that was in her sight, which is so awesome about Ali. Like if anybody knows Ali, she's like one of those extra moms around whenever she's at the shows. She's always super supportive, always there to help, and always there just trying to like guide and, make sure you're a good vibe, get good warm welcomes. And I love that about her because you never get a really like, she knows she is 3-time world champion or she's all that, or she has a team. She's never been that individual. And that's what I love having her at the shows. And that's why I've missed her so much. She hasn't been around. And, we get some other people that like, they think they're all that by carrying a crown. And I'm pretty sure some of our Aussies that came over the seas really set these people straight because that's not like, you don't just have a crown in the WBFF. It's really about you actually winning the show and if you showed up at the show. And the world's always showcases those that maybe don't have a crown, but are actually really worthy of one.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. So,
and just to touch Ali, because I really think that one of the things that this show really brought up was a lot of our, let's say, winners and COVID winners. I just have to bring this up because our COVID winners, meaning our worlds was closed, like we had a lot of championships here in the States that they didn't understand, like with the caliber of all the
have some of the level of athletes that would otherwise have been present is what you're saying.
Yes.
So the playing field perhaps was a little bit less.
Absolutely. It was so different. It was like a shell shock. And I saw it across the board. And I just want everybody to realize the world is still slowly opening up. This world's still just a little taste of what next world will be. And this only means, and this also applies to the fashion side of things, this is probably the best worlds to date that I have ever seen when it comes down to fashion, theme wear, gowns, bikinis. I mean, everything has leveled up. And I don't know if COVID has something to do with that because everyone's just been saving up their money to come back and be better and bigger. But I mean, it was amazing. I was literally like in shock, in awe of every suit, of every design from media day, registration to the amateurs. I'm like, you're an amateur. Are you sure you're an amateur?
Media day was hectic. Like there were looks and styles and like next level extra effort being put into this.
Extra is right.
Media day before. So it's crazy when you see that. But so yes, yes, I agree. I think the fitness and the fashion side of it really popped more this year, the fashion side of it in particular. And I think I'll touch on what you've just sort of come off the back end of saying. And it is for everyone listening to this to recognize that the categories are being set, and you're seeing some themes, and you're starting to see what, you know, the direction is going in and what the executive team are really looking for. Yes, there are a few categories though that were still not quite full of the strong caliber that we would normally have. So we will see more evolution in these categories, I think, over the next few pro shows and over the next year of worlds, right? So you look at my lineup as an example for that. That just did not have the same level of athlete as what it normally does. Like quite seriously, you think about the big names that are usually in that category.
They're usually competing.
None of them were there.
No, they weren't.
Brand new category, brand new lineup.
It was like, actually, had a really good point there. There wasn't any veterans in that category. There was no one that like has been maybe done the world's previous times before. If anything, maybe they did last year's worlds, which again, going back, it was COVID year. It was still, I'm still referring to 2020, 2021 being that, you know, year of transition between COVID, that this is probably the first year back that we finally have started seeing and feeling some of the world's renowned names even coming over the freaking seas. We had Hattie Boydell come into the show. She was there awarding. We had you come in and actually freaking participate in the show, be obviously one of the bigger names and faces of the show. We also had, you know, obviously some other Australians that came over that I had not even seen in forever. And even your directors from Australia, like
which
Paul
was fantastic. So
amazing
good to have them come over and be a part of it, because in all of the years that, you know, I've been supporting the Australian division and, you know, working with these guys, and they're amazing promoters. They
what a pleasure to meet them.
A phenomenal show, right? So they do such great work here, and they never get a chance to come over. So it was really
amazing,
nice to see them all in attendance and get to be part of it. It was great.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing too, like you were referring to the categories and kind of the criteria that's being looked within each category. And I've brought my size down because of what they wanted. Like every single year I've had to bring something different, but not just a different package. I've had to either bring my muscle down or bring certain areas up. Like usually it was glutes and hamstrings needed to come up, but I needed to bring down the quads, bring down the traps,
bring the waist,
bring the waist down. She can't so it was a very big sizing down for me. And I think that out of and anyone that's an athlete or anyone that looks at themselves, you know, from a bigger standpoint to a smaller standpoint, you just feel small. So you never feel really like your 100% athlete self until you're able to really look at the pictures, your stage pictures, and look at maybe the full package presentation. Yes.
And but even though, for everyone listening to this, even though, you know, you've come right down in size, and I obviously notice it because we're always relatively close in sizing. And then I'm standing beside you. I'm like, holy moly, Steph.
Everyone's like, I'm so much bigger
than you right now. But at the same time, though, you know, you were super flat that morning. You didn't have your carbs in yet.
Gosh.
You watch though in that morning, that from the morning to the afternoon, in that evening show, holy moly, it's like you're a transformer.
And you guys, okay, so I always love to talk about this, Ali, because I think a lot of people always give up after the morning show. And for me, like every time I feel like I've always lost every world's show in the morning. And this is to attest to you, every single worlds I've done, I always feel like I'm last freaking place. And that's because I'm honestly not a morning person. I've said this on the podcast multiple times before. I'm really just not a morning person. So for my body to actually wake up and get the fuel and get the carbs in, no matter how hard I try to like get 2-3 meals in by, let's say 8 a.m., I'm still not awake, and let's just put it that way. I'm not awake yet to where I'm not myself, and I didn't feel myself going into the morning show. If I had anything go wrong on show week, it went wrong. And I think when it leads into like how you feel about yourself, how you look, that's also going to resemble on the stage. And all the worlds, I always feel like that pressure really makes me shine so much more in the evening, because I know coming off the stage every morning, like of my worlds, I don't feel good. Like I never feel like, oh, I nailed that.
If I'm really honest, that was the defining point when we were watching the evening show, right? When you're considering the performances in the morning where you've got everyone hungry coming at your heels, and then you come to the evening show and it's almost like you step the hunger up and you drive the passion on the stage even harder, and everyone else kind of almost scales back a fraction. It's really interesting to watch, but that was one of the things we noticed, was that you came out all guns blazing in the middle of the OK Corral, ready to take every fucking out. And I felt like everyone else was like hiding behind cactuses. Like it was literally like that. But I will give kudos though, that morning show, everyone was chasing you. They came out and I felt it. Literally.
My God, the fire. Ali, you should have seen it in the lineup. I'm like, oh, I was sweating bullets in the lineup. Like, holy shit, these girls are bringing it. And not only that, because every year they bring it. Every year I've been against fierce women. But this year, there was something about, you know, when you don't feel your best, when things aren't lining up, and usually leading into the show, you're like, okay, like, I just got to make it on stage and I just got to get off stage and like make it through, because that's exactly kind of, and I'll definitely talk about this more into depth, like as I go into, you know, I think explaining more, I think of my show week, because the show week was very weird for me this year. It's always been weird. I think every show week I learned something new, but this show week I got sick. Like I got actual sick. I got like freaking, like, I don't know if it was my fish. I'm pretty sure it was my fish. On like Tuesday night, I like ended up getting like a stomach virus and ended up freaking throwing up my guts out Tuesday night before flying out. And then after having to wake up and still feeling so like depleted from like throwing up all of my anything, and you're already depleted, y'all. It's show week. Exactly. What else do you have left in you? You really can't do much, but besides like, okay, let me hydrate, let me try to get myself feeling better. And it's travel day. And on travel day, because I'm so close to Vegas and I do this every year, and I'm like, there's nothing going to be wrong with flying in on registration day, because it's normally, you know, when I was flying anyway. I mean,
going to go wrong because you flew in on registration day.
You know, and so everything does go wrong. So you fly on registration day, you're already sick, you're still nauseous, you're still puking your guts out. You have to roll in and put a face on, because guess what? You are, you know, obviously one of the faces that are being seen at registration. So registration alone was just a freaking drag. I'm like, how can I just like last through this day and then just get some food in me and keep it down? God damn it. Like, you know, because you still have like that stomach virus in you. Guys, it took me up until like probably Friday to even like really feel even a little normal, and having to do all the events and the shoots, and it was just, I almost canceled everything. And I'm like, but I can't. I really can't. I'm like, I'm not going to be that person. I'm not going to let excuses build up and just be a freaking loser here at the last minute, like just give in. So it's just that fighter mentality that gets you through. But that Saturday morning, I woke up and I'm like, okay, this makeup artist did okay, but this hair stylist, I'm sorry, I don't know what, she did not listen to me. She did not do my the way I asked her to do. She put freaking, oh my God, 1,000 times hairspray in my hair. I couldn't move it. So literally leaving the beauty room, you have to like realize, and this has happened to so many other of my clients or competitors I've watched, they allow it to get to them. They allow it to just destroy their energy, their aura, and they just think like, fuck it. It's like fucked up. The whole day is ruined. And you know, though,
I saw that happening even in the makeup room this time around, because I'm obviously there getting ready.
You were getting ready at the same time. You saw me.
At the same time I'm sitting there, right? But the really interesting thing was that I could just sit back and observe. So I was just watching all these, you know, people do their thing. And you could literally see, there was probably I'd say about 30% of people that I saw
freak out, or the other ones chill.
Happen, and then you can see their whole disposition and energy shift. And I'm like, wow, you can't do that. Like, no, you gotta almost be like, you know, Teflon, let it just, you know, roll off you.
Exactly.
You can't hold on to it, because it will 100% reflect inside of your performance on stage. And it's either going to show up in the way of nerves with shakiness, or it's going to show up with loss of energy. You're just going to have facial expressions that won't be anywhere near as authentic and joyful as they need to be, because energy is everything on that stage.
Oh man, you can't say that
everything enough. So, you know, there were several times where we had people really quite close, and it came down to the wire of going, okay, well, whose walk's more powerful? Who is, Yeah, and we did. In the bikini lineup, we actually started to watch walks to assess walks. We also assessed skin.
So good.
In several of the categories.
Oh, yes. And thank God you're saying that, because girls neglect the skin.
Smooth, flawless, like skin is a thing. So, you know, do your skin prep, guys. Like, make sure that you're having, you know, scrubs, you're moisturized, you're getting the top coat tan put on to make you, you know, the finish right.
Look more smooth, because otherwise you'll look dry. There's actually making that point. I saw a lot of girls that looked a little drier, and given there's a WBFF tan, y'all, like there's going to be a color, but that's a color standard. There's a difference between the actual dryness and, you know, actually having some nice shine. And this doesn't mean it's oil, by no means. You just look hydrated. You just look like you actually have like some good lotion on, and you don't look too just grainy. Like, I think at the end of the day on stage, your skin is actually 100%. One of the biggest things.
100%. And another thing that I would suggest too is, when it comes time to have your makeup done, sometimes matching suit color doesn't always work. So if it's like a really
I agree so
it does
much.
Not always work to have like a bright yellow eye.
Hot pink and hot pink. Sorry, girls. I know the makeup artist will say it'll they'll make it work.
I would always think going edgy is great, and think edgy if that's what you want, but maybe trial a few looks before the day so you can see if it's going to work or not. Have some photos taken, assess it, because you don't want to stuff that up on show day. Like that's all graded, that's all marked. You also don't want to have lashes so thick and so long they close your eyes out, and then all your photos look like your eyes
create shadows. And they create shadows. You have to remember we have harsh lights on stage. Yep. But with the eyeshadow thing, I can't stress that enough, because I've watched this from other, you know, other shows. Obviously, I didn't get to watch this particular show. I was part of the show, but even backstage, I was just kind of questioning some of the makeup looks. And I'm like, wait, that's very, very harsh, like a lot of heart pink, or maybe a lot of orange or fuchsia. And I'm like, okay, I know the suit color is like that, but we're still beauty organization as well, where if you really think of it, like a lot of the models are going to be a little bit more neutral. It doesn't mean that they have to be like dewy or like super matty, but they're having a lot more shimmer and shine, and maybe a little bit more gloss, versus just trying to go with these like really loud colors. Although I will say some loud colors will mix in with some individuals, like liners, or maybe even like trying to add in a two-tone, like let's say green and blue and gold, like they'll blend in at some point, you know, but those yellows and, you know, really, really not accenting like pinks, I think are very, very difficult to get by.
Look, there was a couple of personalities.
Few people can. Please, I'll say that, because some people can, but others, like you and I, Ali, are really like, we're gonna look like clowns. Like,
I would look so stupid. If I tried to do that, I'd look so stupid. But then there was personalities on stage where it actually did suit them and they could get away with it. But I'm telling you, there was like maybe, I don't know, 2 or 3 of those, you know, not everyone. So I would definitely consider that and look at it and be thinking, there is a fine line between trying to do something edgy to stand out and then completely derailing your overall look because it just doesn't quite work. So I think test it, ask for other opinions, get people's input. Don't just wing it on the day, because I think you know, it's so disappointing to have something like that lose you points in a part of the judging, you know, that is quite substantial. It's quite high, right? So the way that you present head to toe is a full 40%. It's quite a lot. So I would definitely suggest be mindful of that. But the one thing that I do want to drive home is that you need to come in looking fresh and new and different every single stage. You cannot be bringing the same thing you brought last time, not in posing, not in looks, not in physique. You need to improve your physique 100%, no matter who you are, whether you're a 3-time or you're a 5-time world champ. You still got shit to improve upon it. End of story.
Always.
And then channel a different look, because this is a modeling show. This is a beauty, fitness, fashion modeling show. So you need to be showing your diversity in your looks and your ability to model and represent different, you know, commercial brands. Like that's what they're looking for. So you need to mix it up. You need to stay fresh. You need to bring vibes. There needs to be something uniquely new about you every time. And I would strongly suggest trying not to get stuck in the rut of comfort or thinking one angle or one pose or one side of you looks best. I would try to get out of that, because
it's so true, Ali. I think that so many people do the same pose over and over again. And that's probably the biggest, for me, every single time I watch a show, even when I'm the spectator watching, I'm like, these girls hit the same poses over and over again because so-and-so hits it, or so-and-so taught me. And like, that is just what they run with, and they never make it unique. They never make it like something for themselves, and that makes them blend in. And I'm sure how many routines you saw that were just blended.
So good. It's so good you said that, because I did notice a lot of similarities in posing.
Just
but
like the same person.
Yeah, I actually had a conversation with one of the pros that placed top 3, and she was amazing. And I just love her. I love her as a person. I love everything about her. But the thing for me that I really think is a point for her to improve upon is creating her own style, creating her own energy and her own alter ego /
your
avatar on
personality,
stage,
right?
channeling her, because the repetitiveness of another person's pose where their body types are completely different just didn't do her as much punchy justice as her whole look does. So, that was definitely one of the biggest pieces of feedback for her, was go away and find you. Like, it's time to now find what you are on stage.
This should resonate to anyone that's listening about, WBF in general. You have to find you. I've had to constantly change. Like, I can't be the same because they know what to expect.
This
and they
is
know
actually a question for you. Hang on, let me ask you this, because I put it on my story today and asked people to give us questions that they want to address to you. And this was a question I thought was a good one. It was, how do you personally keep your posing routine fresh? What do you do to bring something new?
Posing has always been fun for me. So posing and trying to get something different to come out has been something I've had to try to work on every year. And I feel like every year I've had to find something I really suck at to focus on and then try to make that my strength. And normally, and if anyone has watched me since the beginning, I usually just come on stage and come off stage. I'm pretty quick. Like, I'm not really like one of those that just stays on stage and lingers. I'm like on and off very fast and doom, done. But as the years have come by, I became maybe too quick, maybe too much hair. Like, let me tell you, after London, after my first world title win, no one was doing any hair flip. But gosh dang, like after that first world title, and I did that one picture and that one hair flip that I did, every girl after that freaking show was throwing their hair and flipping their hair like nonstop. And I'm like, okay, no more flipping in their hair, Stephanie. I think every girl is copying about flipping her hair.
I'm glad you're saying this, because I think this is a point that we need to make. And I actually was the first thing I said to my team. I wrote them my tips post-show, things for you guys to be very aware of. And the number one thing was, don't copy a pose just because you see someone in a top lineup doing it. Doesn't mean it's any good.
Honestly, I don't even know where the hell the hair flip came from in London, but it came out, and after
yours was good. But this is my point, where they'll see one thing and they'll copy. Now, in your event, it worked. It was good.
It worked that day. I obviously,
that aren't that great. And I'm like, don't do that. Don't do that.
And so that was a staple, I guess. From there, I knew, okay, you get a signature. Like you end up finding what is your signature. So I thought then, after actually it was my second Worlds, that I had to stop doing it, because I realized like this is hurting not just my signature, but every other girl on stage, because they're thinking they have to do it in order to do something extra with their hair. So it was after 2018 at Vegas that I was like, I think one more whole routine with it. I was like, yeah, I got to completely change this whole hair flipping thing. So when there became way more about my walk, oh my God, I started honing in on my walk, and it being something that I was really, really focused on, the catwalk,
I love the walk.
crossing of the legs, nothing about, because before I used to have to use my hands on my waist, on my hips to be able to kind of like have a little bit more of a fierce walk, versus after Vegas, I was like, you know what, I need to like change that up, be more. And in Bahamas, all it was is like walk, strut, nothing about really hair. In reality, it was just really the walk. And what a great show for that, because we had a runway, right? Like we had an awesome runway.
Very modelly.
Yeah, so all we really did was model for that one, really more catwalk modeling. And so for, I guess, in 2020, when we did 2021, because 2020 was canceled, we ended up having to change things up even more, right? And this was more for me to really slow down. Like, oh my God, like just because the fact that I still, even with my catwalk, I so fiercely came on stage way too fast and left. I'm like, I almost feel like I had no traction to stop because of how fierce and how fast I would come out on the stage. Yeah. So every year, again, going back to, I have to find something that I know was my weakness that I couldn't control on stage, and kept trying to work on that for the following year. And so for that one, it was like tempo. I thought,
what I love, if everyone's listening to this, is she hasn't addressed or identified anything outside of herself. There is not about creating a look that's like this or like this. It's, I'm channeling a weakness and improving it, right? Something that I'm doing already, not something I'm copying, and not something where I'm looking for something external to myself. I'm literally just improving me.
And that's where I really dissected though, Ali, like, okay, my tempo, I can't really capture these maybe poses in the stage video. And thank God I had stage video now, because the first 2 shows we didn't, right? Like we didn't have GoCo Productions giving us all this amazing stage footage, and you're still yet to get on the stage to get some of that footage, right, Ali?
Oh, wait.
But I know. So it's more of like another opening eye. I'm like, ooh, I gotta work on these faces. Like I am just all over the place with the way I'm expressing myself. I know I'm having fun. I know I'm out there and giving a good energy, but I'm like, you can do so much better at trying to express yourself with a composed face and actually know what you're delivering. So one of the biggest things that going into this show, not only was it tempo, going into all the things I've had to work on over the last 5-6 years in my presentation has been not just the posing, but just the walk, the face, the tempo. I mean, from spins, like some girls spin too much, right? And trying to just find a good balance between, spinning just enough and having pivot, traction, but at the same time transitioning smoothly. And I think all of that really has just came down to the stage time and really trying to see how I can improve from stage to stage.
Yeah. And it's about having the right combination between modelly poses, fluid transitions, hands being used and not used, hair being used and not used, where it's not just all hair, all arms, everything up in the air, armpits showing. Like
you nailed it. Like, and that's why this time
flow that you channel.
I didn't know what I was gonna do, honestly, Ali. I was like, I don't know what the hell I'm gonna do different to make myself different. And here I go with the fucking kick. Like, I'm sure you fucking saw, like, what the hell?
I saw the kick and I was like, wow. That is what the hell did this girl do? But it was good. It worked, right? So
it's so different. Like, as far as for me to hit that, like, oh, look, I don't even know if I've seen a kick on stage, honestly, but still, I was like, you know what? I have to do something different to be able to get myself to, just have some type of moment. And even then, I didn't feel it because I wasn't myself in the morning, and I still didn't like really feel like 1,000%. But I just knew I still had to present myself somewhat different rather than just the full 360.
Definitely did.
And I was like, it is what it is. I left it out on the stage and I came back much more fierce, which I'm so happy. I mean, if anyone watched, was able to see from the morning show to the evening show, was so much better for me than in the morning. I think a lot of people can give up really easy. This applies to anyone going on the stage. You can really think that all the things are against you, things went wrong. And if you give up just because the morning show went not as good, you really are leaving so much on the table, because you can come back and turn things around and be better and actually go from third to second. I've watched it so many times before in other shows where maybe not at this particular show, but they could have been a 5th place going up to 3rd because of how much better they did in the evening.
Well, I
might have actually happened.
Honestly tell you that there were about 4 or 5 placings that got moved in the evening.
Sure they did.
Yeah,
that goes to fashion attire, y'all. That goes to also your energy and how you perform and bring it back in the evening. Because I've realized
the evening show with extensions from what you've eaten or drunk during the gap, that's it affects you. So there's a whole bunch.
Or it can help you, right? I was flat as hell in the morning,
100%.
And then I was able to get my meals in, and I was so much better. Exactly. So it really applies.
So another thing that was asked of you, and I think that this is actually probably a little bit easy, because the question was about how do you balance the progression of your physique without outgrowing your category? But I mean, you, like me, haven't had to try to put size on. It's actually been about peeling it back.
Yeah. So you're right. Like, it wasn't as difficult as building, because building up an area is going to always take so much longer than reducing and sizing down. For anyone that is maybe on a borderline category, you continue getting told you're borderline figure, or you're borderline maybe, wellness, but you want to be bikini, vice versa, whatever you're being, because usually those borderlines are either between fitness and figure, or maybe bikini and wellness, just because of your muscle, maybe in your lower body. It's easier to actually size down than it is to size up. If you're going to take a good building phase, a good building season, then you're definitely able to size up. But I was never really wanting to go up to figure. I've always been told since my first world show, hey, you have the ability to go figure right now. If you wanted to go into figure, let's just continue working towards that. But I always wanted to be in fitness. So for me, it was a pretty easy decision as far as kind of what areas I needed to bring down. It was always bring down my back. If anyone can go back to any of my previous years of competing, my back has came down double. And I mean double. Like, I massive traps, freaking density in my mid back more than anything. But that also came with smaller glutes and hamstrings. So now that I've been able to bring down my upper back, I've put a lot more of that mass, in my glutes and in my hammies. I had massive quads comparable to my lower body. That has came down. I don't have the big quads that I'm used to before. Yes, it a little makes me sad sometimes, but don't worry, I'm going to bring them back up. Like, these are all the things, like, this is like my end point for my symmetry. So for the exciting parts of my future, I know for me, it's like, I'm only going to get bigger from here. And it doesn't mean that the WFF wants me bigger, it just means that I'm going to be able to get bigger. So then I can size back down. Okay. Like, I'll be able to build, have a good little solid, phase, a few months, like X amount of time, 6 to 9 months before I have to start cutting again. And I think even from there, I'm going to be in such a better position with symmetry and even maybe a little more size. So I won't have to be as small to bring in the symmetry that I did this year, which is what excites me as an athlete, because I know I'll be able to actually build going forward and not actually have to think, get smaller, reduce your back, or reduce, quads or glutes. No, at this point, all I get to do now is build everything equally and really just bring in a bigger and more better package.
I'm actually looking forward to your off season, because I actually quite like it in off season. I think that you look curvy and delicious. So
excited. Y'all, I'm tired of being lean. I'm tired of maintaining. I'll be honest, like, this last 2 years have been awesome trying to, showcase a leaner physique and maintain it. But I am so ready, and I'm so freaking just excited. Have all the foods, train my fucking ass off, show all of you guys it's okay to have a little thick on you, and then just be able to go into the new year with a lot more body fat on me. I'm excited. So all of you guys are in
question that I do have for you about the actual show, and I'm sure everyone would like to hear this too, because I actually gave this feedback. You are cool as a cucumber, lady. Like, there is nothing, even though you might be thinking it, you never show it. And I love this about you. On stage, you might be having literally massive internal conflict about a situation, but we wouldn't know that you're not just seeing rainbows and lollipops, right? Like, honestly, nothing shows with you. Now, what I love is that it could be that it was really close in the morning show, and you might have felt all of those feelings, right? But you didn't demonstrate it at all. And like I said before, the difference between the morning and the nighttime show too is that you came out even harder and more aggressive and more hungry, right? So you didn't lose anything. There was no vibing mentally that, hey, this is probably the closest battle I've had as a world champ, and you didn't falter. So I would love to ask the question of you as to how did you actually feel coming out of the morning show, and how did you process / channel the vibes needed to come into that nighttime show and just cement your place?
That's a really good Good question, because coming off
my question, I want to hear this because
I think like whoever asked is very good question.
People are going to want to know this about you, but it's something that I admire about you. I love your cool as a cucumber, slick as ice nature when it comes to that stage. It's what makes you a multiple champ in the GOAT. So let's understand and break apart the psyche now as to what happened in that morning show to evening show for you, because this is the closest it's ever been.
You know, you feel that way? Because I feel like it's been closer before. And I feel like going into, like Bahamas 2019, like I felt like, oh my God.
You felt more pressure in that one.
I felt way more. And don't get me wrong, this one, I had a lot of pressure, but I just had different kind of pressure. I just knew that I couldn't give my 100% to this prep because of my injuries. I already just knew like I had to kind of half-fast some of the things that I had to go into show week. So I wasn't really in this like headspace where I knew I was going to be my best. So coming off the stage, I wasn't like, oh my God, right? Like I nailed it. By no means, I'm like, fuck, I could do so much better. Like, honestly, that was my first thought.
Yeah,
first time I came off stage was,
you didn't show that at all. You did not show that at all, which was great.
But you know, I think that comes down to you knowing what stage performance matters so much, like how you perceive and what energy you give. And that's, I hope this, any takeaway from this from this episode, anybody could take is no matter what you're going through, no matter what thoughts go through your head, if you feel like you're not even ready, you still fucking wing it on stage, no matter what. Like on stage, that is no room for you to act and feel like, you know, things went wrong, because even if they went wrong, this is your only opportunity that you prepped this whole freaking year for, to be able to showcase. And I'm going to just give it up for those 5-10 seconds that I give up on stage to let all those emotions eat me up. Right.
I think the good part is you acknowledge that it's about the prep and all the work you've done. Right. So you know,
my gosh, I'm not going to let that one moment.
Exactly. Not forgetting everything you've done, and you know you've ticked all the boxes. You know you've checked every possible item off the list, right? That you could do to downsize, to make the adjustments, to take the feedback on board, to bring the different physique that was required of you. So I guess it's about channeling that, right? That comfort
in that moment.
That I've done
in that moment, right? Yes. Because I could have easily in that lineup, and I think this is the opportunity when anybody can just easily just make it or break it. It's in that lineup. In that lineup, when those thoughts just are starting to overpower you, they're starting to, you know, make you feel a certain way, you're frustrated or you don't feel ready or whatever it is. That's when you should be pep talking to yourself. And this is when I do, anyone that's listening is like, this is when you should be calling yourself a bad bitch, no matter what fucking happens on that stage. This is my time. This is my moment. I worked so damn hard to get here. I'm not going to let any little thing, a shoe, a hair, a lash, anything sabotage me from having the time of my life on that stage. And even if I don't feel my best, I'm going to give my best because I've done my best. And when I left the stage, Lally, I knew I could do fucking better. Oh my God. That's the only thing that can ever eat you alive, is knowing that you can do better. And so what I did go do was I went and freaking refueled. I had my food, you know, I had my feet up for a little bit. I had obviously the closest people that I needed next to me, which I find is the biggest other thing. If you have negativity coming into you in the middle of the show, telling you that you didn't do as good, and that, like, I honestly blocked myself up. I tell this to even my clients. I put myself on timeout, you know, because I don't need to give my energy out to anybody else that may not be what they need to hear or see. So maybe some of my clients didn't see me backstage as much as they would have liked on the second part of the show, but that's because I was trying to get my shit together. That was because I was trying to
I think you actually crushed it. I don't think for a second that you didn't perform well or as well or any of that. I think you absolutely crushed it. And I think that, you know, we've talked about this, you know, personally, you and I, the difference in your physique between a morning show and an evening show, so much fuller and like more punchy again. So it's almost like, no matter how close
you just said it though, show, I just knew I could do better in the evening. And that's why I think where I came off and I'm like, okay, Steph, it's not anything you haven't done before, right? Like I was actually reminding myself, you've lost in the morning before, you can come back and win. Like, and that's all I kept reminding myself.
That's an awesome strategy.
I could do better, and just know that it doesn't, you don't leave it to the evening show by no means. You don't just wait and say, oh, I'm going to make it up in the evening. No, but you still have a little extra ammunition of knowing, all right, I'm going to do better. I'm going to give it my all. I tried my best in the morning, but that wasn't my best.
And
I know
for everyone listening to this, the only time that you have the fortitude of having an evening show to correct something is when you are literally at the top. Like, it's got to be, it's when the points are really close, and you know that it just cements your place at first when you come out like that. So, you know, it was just the biggest impact to see you take to the stage, and the fact that you changed your bikini and you came out in that white outfit. It was so amazing. From the minute you stepped on stage, Allison and I both were just like, oh, wow. Okay, here we go. All right, popcorn out. You know what I mean? Like, it was incredible. That outfit just made you go pop.
Hey, we had some guns, you know, obviously some bullets still left in the tank. We needed to bring them out, and I still had to like do something. I'm like, I felt it, I knew it, my team knew it. You know, everyone in my corner was like, Steph, we got to bring it even more in the evening. And I'm like, that's just you guys letting me know that I still have something left in the tank. And and I love that though. They know that that's how I thrive. They know adding gas to the fire is gonna make my fire freaking blow up. So they know how to work with me, and like they just
get to see you or speak to you or anything until after the show. So I had no idea how you were feeling, where you were going, like nothing.
The emotions were through the roof.
There's no denying you 5-time world champ for a freaking reason, Stephanie. Like, quite literally, you are the GOAT. There is no one else I know that has come close to you physically, in the sense of just constant, continual, year-on-year progressions, improvements. Your glutes have literally been so far out of reach for everyone that it's depressing. It's just, it was really good to see you bring something completely different. You know, most people think you can't possibly have brought something new for a 5th time. Do you know what I mean? So it was really cool to see you walk in and everyone be like, oh, holy crap, just when we thought maybe she wouldn't make it, here she is.
I felt it, man.
Yeah, like, it was cool.
You know what, though? I thank those people. I thank the people that didn't believe in me. And I thank the people that fueled me enough to make me actually freaking do the things that I didn't think I was going to do. Because there was a lot of moments that I'm like, you know what? This isn't going to be my best, because I knew this is what I wanted physically. And we've had this on the podcast before. Yeah. What the federation or brand is looking for isn't what you feel your best at or what you physically want. But at the same time, if you follow the criteria, you listen to your coaches, you know, yes, you will not be at the top if you don't. Yes. And I will say, I mean, at the end of the day, we're all competitors. We all want to, you know, be lean and have condition. But if you get too overly lean, too overly conditioned, too big for the criteria of the category, you're not going to do as good as you possibly could. So listen to your coaches and make sure you are getting the feedback. You're looking at your stage photos. Like, I'm right now still waiting on my stage photos back. We'll still be, you know, probably a week away from getting those. And then I'll be able to really gung-ho go into dissecting what I want and need to.
This is also where I've been saying to everyone, look to where things were placed from bikini through at this Worlds as the benchmark for what you should be producing, because they literally have chosen the placings where they sit for the most close to the criteria required that there was on the day. So you need to
on the ones that showed up, because what you said there is so important, because I also want people to be able to look at this upcoming Australian show, because this is also one of the big eye openers for a lot of people across the globe to understand that criteria is different. And that's why I love that Pauline and Ori, right, were at these shows to be able to kind of see the differences of, you know, what WBFF Worlds, even from the Pro-Ams and Australia are. So like going into the Australians that came, like, oh my God, what a freaking high caliber freaking athletes that they all were. And congrats to all of them. I think that going into the Australian Pro-Am, this is only going to lead them into obviously the title over there, right? Like the ones that competed at this show.
And I think I've had a lot of questions coming through on Instagram about, you know, the differences between an Australian show and a global show. And I'm just going to come back to this and remind everyone that as a judge, you can only judge what's on stage on the day, right? So you have to place a first place for who's best on stage on the day, but that first place may go to Worlds and be nowhere near what the actual winner's going to be like. So, you know, when you're, and in particular, it's our fitness category here, in particular fitness category, when you're looking at it, you know, look to what is being placed at Worlds and then aim to hit that, right? Because even though you might be looking at what has been on a stage prior to you or in a season before you, it may not be anywhere near like a Stephanie or an Aftan, or the girls are at the very top over there on the global stage, right? But it is not a judging issue. The judges are merely judging what they have in front of them. What
they have showed up. Day,
right.
Yes.
So what I would say is this, I would challenge the coaches that are putting these athletes on the stage to perhaps start educating themselves if they're not WBFF background, which a lot of the ones now placing some of these girls in the higher places in Australia, they're not, and they're not getting it. You know, like they're literally putting girls on that are too hard, too borderline too borderline figure in fitness. And it's like, start looking at what they actually want so that your girls are not disheartened if they go across to a world stage and they don't place. Because
amen to that.
It's really
look at the world champions. I think obviously if you're looking to, you know, train across or come across and, you know, do some global shows over here, looking at, you know, the current world champions like Aisha, oh my God, that was just like a pretty undeniable, you know, you just figure win, like, and she was stunning and just really had the muscle, the size, the symmetry, and looked
not too big.
Right. So that's what I was kind of going to lead into. I'm like, she wasn't overly big.
It's not about just being jacked and massive. It's actually about being a beautiful, symmetrical, petite frame that's super conditioned with mass, more mass than a fitness girl, right? So it's really redefining again and honing, downsizing the figure level as well. I think really take note of what we're saying here. Look to where they're positioning their top three in each of these categories and start to have conversations with your coaches. It's been made very clear they do not want super heavily enhanced looking women in the brand. So maybe don't feel like as a bikini girl, you need to go and jump on something because you really don't. You know, start really having honest conversations, because I'm going to say it again, you know, I think the perception is that there's something different at the judging panel, and there's not. The same criteria that is global is here in Australia. It is just that the judges have to judge what's on stage on the day. So it's not the judges coaching
caliber.
The judges coaching these people. It is down to the coaches to
who shows up
putting people on stage that do not meet the global requirements of the brand.
Amen. Amen to that.
Don't attack the judges.
The issue.
It's not the judges' issue.
It is the truth. It is the truth.
It really is.
I couldn't attest more to that, because the biggest difference is the people that show up to the stage.
Correct.
It's not, and that still happens here in the States within regional shows, within pro shows. There's some champions that are a little more leaner than others, and that just comes relative to who showed up in that category, and who goes pro is who showed up at that regional show. So I couldn't agree more, and I hope you guys have some good takeaways from obviously just a little reflect and, you know, recap of the worlds. I'm still over the moon. I still haven't been able to sink in everything. I'm really honestly still in shock, and I can't think so many of the messages and freaking sweet comments and just shares.
You're an inspiration, Steph, to so many people. You're an inspiration for many reasons. It's not just what you bring physically. You're an absolute doll. And anyone that speaks to me knows that I have nothing but the highest regard for you as a human. But beyond that, you're an inspiration because you fight and you bring something fresh, and you constantly evolve, and you do not become stagnant. And what I love most is you're not expectant. You don't expect it. You're not complacent. You continue to fight for it. And I think that's where the inspiration comes. So I'm glad people are actually giving you that commentary. I think you deserve it, and you deserve to hear it from more people than just me, because I give it to you all the time. But I think you deserve it from more people than just me. And I think, you know, kudos to you and Kerry as well, though, because of course was up there with high energy right beside you, battling you for this. Was
my God.
So I think
that's my point.
Kudos to you. And
like,
I think
if there was anyone though, Ali, like if Afton would have taken this title, guys, I would have fucking cried on stage. Like, I would have literally, I already cried on the stage winning. I would have probably double cried even more.
The
even
final question,
cried with Afton winning.
Final question that someone did ask is, would you be happy to pass the baton over to Afton?
Oh my God, more than I would literally, like I said, I would not only cry, I would just be jumping up and down because, guys, that's my baby girl. Like, you guys don't know the history of Afton and I watched, she came into one of my little seminars thinking she was a bikini model. And I'm like, girl, you are crazy. You are not a bikini model. I'm like, yes, I am. I'm like, she goes, I want to wear a gown. I'm like, you are not a bikini model.
I want to wear a gown. Oh my God, I love her. I can, like, you know what? I can actually picture her and hear her saying that, but I want to wear a gown.
She couldn't even talk. Like, I mean it in the best way. She could barely communicate. She was the most introverted girl, very outgoing still when you got to get to know her, but she's super shy. To be able to get her to do that first
show.
You remember, right? Show. You judged that show.
I judged that show when we put her pro, and I remember how shy and introverted she was. She's a totally different woman now.
Oh my gosh. Do you not know how proud I am just of watching her grow and being able to see how far she's come and the athlete and woman and, you know, obviously career she's building for herself. It makes me probably the most proud coach. If I could have, again, passed on the baton and passed on the torch to someone that's on my team and someone that I've really been molding for so long.
I know. And I already knew the answer to this question because you and I have had this conversation many times where we've been physically grooming people to actually take over and run with, you know, the crowns in the future, because this has been a topic of conversation for us for the last 2-3 years, right?
That makes us good ass coaches, Ali. That makes us good coaches.
The same purpose where I'm like, I want you to own the crown and I want you to have the one above it. You know what I mean? Like 100%, I get that. There is nothing believing more in them. You want to build the champions as much as you want to be one, right?
Oh man, and I know, and look, she will be, and take my word for that, because she will be the next world champion, and she is going to carry that torch beautifully. I cannot wait, you know, obviously for her to just continue battling it out because she has what it takes. And this year, I know she's finally going to do the full thing, so that's already going to give everybody a run for their money.
This year at Worlds was the first time where I was like, yeah, she can do it. She can actually do it.
Oh, man. Oh, for sure. I've never had a doubt in my head. I've told her since her first show, she has what it takes. She just has to freaking do it year round.
Believe it and want it.
Believe it. Yeah. Amen. All of it. And I know she does, and she will be. So anyone else that's a fitness model in the open class, keep working your freaking ass off. And I mean that because I want everybody to be freaking coming and trying to, you know, get the top spot going into the next Worlds. I was saddened, Ali. I will leave it at this because as much as I know the Worlds has been closed, like, and I know this has still kind of been
you thought there'd be more people coming.
I absolutely did. I thought there would be more. And I was kind of,
can I just say this though? I think from the Australian standpoint, there was not enough flights coming from different places. We were very limited. The costs were really high. So I think that
same for Europe.
As we're opening up more and there's more coming online on offer, there's more options. I think we're going to see more. I already know what my team looks like for next year, and it's quite large. So we're bringing a fair few people over from here and from New Zealand. So that's a thing. That's both for amateur and pro shows. So, you know, look, I think we're going to see a much more normal, back to our true global representation at next year's Worlds. But I'm really proud of the numbers that did come this year and made the effort. I think, you know, like I said, we had an incredible lineup of Aussie athletes come.
Oh man, thank God the Australians came.
You know?
I was so freaking happy. Can't even explain how happy I was seeing the New Zealand, the Aussies, even the Europeans that came over. I was like, thank goodness the world's starting to feel, or at least Worlds was starting to feel a little more normalized. Still not quite there yet, but I feel like 2023, we're going to be getting there. So next year we're in for it. Paul and Allison really made this one super special. And I feel like it's only going to get better from here.
100%. Like I'm talking, when I think about, you know, my very first Worlds, which for anyone listening to this, I've been a pro for 10 years next year. So it's been a decade for me as being passionate, loyal to this brand, and a super active pro athlete. Nearly 10 years. It's crazy. And I think back to my very first year, my very first pro level experience, and I can't express enough to anyone because you won't understand it. It is a 360-degree evolution, and it was crazy. Incredible back then. So if that tells you something, that shows you just how phenomenal this year's was, because the benchmark was high when I started. It's into another level. It's
its own level. Yes. And I feel like it only gets better. So anyone listening and you're maybe on the fence of maybe joining the WFF or wanting to do a show, this is definitely the year. Oh yeah, this is the year for you to try it out. There's still a few shows left for the rest of the year. You know, I cannot wait to go and support my girl Allie as she makes her comeback onto the freaking WBFF stage. If you aren't already following her journey, she is already prepping. I know it. Trust me, I saw her at Worlds and I'm like, okay, she's got this. Trust me, I know Allie. I know what she can do, and I've watched her work, and I know what she can do in a certain time frame. And this woman, and when she's got a motive and a motivation, she is ruthless. And I'm sure she's gonna amaze and inspire so many of you the way she has in the past for me. Because this journey alone, we're 15 weeks. Oh yeah, babe, you got plenty of time to be able to make some damage here.
And only 6 weeks postpartum with a C-section, some major abdominal surgery. So I hadn't actually done anything. And I was walking into Worlds literally untrained, hardly moving. I'm not in a deficit, in a surplus because I'm breastfeeding.
I watched you. You were breastfeeding at our dinner. And I'm like, this girl is seriously at our dinner right now, breastfeeding. I love it. It was so good. As we're at as they're all eating their dinner, and I'm like, okay guys, I can't have anything. They're like, hold on, I gotta breastfeed real quick. I'm like, this is a boss bitch, okay? Like, this woman literally just pulls out and just starts, feeding George. I'm like, yeah, she's definitely gonna do this, because I was watching her arms, I'm looking at her body, I'm like, she's gonna have this in the bank. Whether she freaking crawls herself on stage, which I've watched her actually practically do, she's gonna make it to that stage, to make a statement and to prove to everybody. And not just herself. I think she's such a good example for it.
I did a post about this. I did this in my story where, people are asking me, and I need to caveat this, and I've said this before, but I'll say it again. There is no pressure on any woman to get back or bounce back or whatever the term they want to use is. And that is not what I'm doing. I'm not doing this to make other women feel inadequate or incompetent or like they need to rush, because I'm not. I'm just doing this for me. It's good for my mental health. It's good for my higher self. I believe that I'm at my best when I'm healthy.
You can do it. Why the hell not? Like, I know you. If you can do it and you can set an example and be a role model for other women to know that they can do it.
I'm doing this also to show my team that anything is possible, right? I don't ever want to feel like there is anything in life that's going to hold them back from their goal if they really want it.
Look,
so I'm proving a point to myself, but also to showcase to my ladies that, hey,
you're breaking the stereotype, okay? It doesn't matter what or when or how you have this baby, you're not going to just give yourself up afterwards. And that alone sets you apart from the rest of every freaking woman, because you and your fire and your drive, I'm telling you, it's unmatched when it comes down to like gung-hoing and getting into a prep. This woman is a machine. She's a machine. So watch her work. Honestly, she's amazing. And so I can't wait.
I can tell you now, I have not felt hunger in 3 years, and I felt it this week, and I have not missed it. I have not missed it at all. And it made me have this moment where I turned to my coaching team and I went,
welcome to our world, Allie.
Don't want to do an off season, because I don't know about you, but I don't miss this hunger thing. Like, what even is this? I honestly.
Why do you think I said I'm done? Why do you think I said I'm done with this?
What the hell?
No, honestly, the hunger is still there. Yeah, what are you? What is this? Look, that's going to be part of her upcoming prep, and I'm just looking forward to getting out of it, because I'm still hungry right now. But I gotta fight this hunger to reverse out, because let me tell you, I'm still hungry right now, but we still gotta fight the hunger cues, because we are not in a place where we can just like immediately get back to normal. So I'm with you. We'll be hungry for a little bit longer, but then you're gonna be hungry and I'm not at Exotic. So I will be there to support you and cheer you on.
It's gonna be worth it. It's gonna be worth it.
Oh, fuck yeah.
So on that note, I hope everyone listening, has just gotten and taken home some really great great pieces of advice from what Stephanie's journeys look like, and, you know, her mindset and how she's approached this day and this whole pressure loaded, you know, situation that she found herself in. She is the GOAT for many, many reasons. And, you know, I'm sure that everyone that follows our podcast thinks she's an absolute sweetheart like I do. And I also hope you've taken away some of the things that I've had to say about, you know, where things are going and what to think about and consider when you're prepping for a world stage, because there is a lot more to it than just your body. So don't forget that. And, you know, feel free to reach out to me if there's any questions that you have or anything that you want to run by me. I'm always happy to take, you know, those questions and gives my input. And I hope you all enjoy watching my crazy shenanigans as I come postpartum to stage yet again.
I'm so freaking
I'm so excited. I'm
already
motivated AF. I can't
wait. It's more than that, y'all. I saw the spark in her at Worlds, and I think Worlds will do that for you, though. Like when we watch the events and we watch the show, we see. You know how many messages I got of competitors, of, you know, clients that are competitors that are just not competing or in a, you know, prep right now. They're like, okay, I got the itch, right? Like I'm ready to get back on stage. Like let's pick a show, coach. Let's pick one. Right. That's exactly how I feel. A lot of the ones that weren't competing that watched the show have got that, you know, new little sense of fire. And I watched it in Allie's eyes, like the whole time. I'm like, she's never left. She's ready to be back on this stage. She's gonna
it was only COVID. It was only COVID.
I know. You would have been a 4-time champion. No doubt.
And then we just decided to take advantage of that downtime where the world was on pause to actually do
Baby George is here now. But Baby George is here, which is probably the best gift ever. And I can't wait for him to be, you know, a proud son, watching his mom go and take your world title back, you know, or at least keep freaking just showcasing how you can just be a champion leading into the next world, because knowing you coming off Atlantic City, like next thing I know, she'll probably be like, okay, I'm gonna do Orlando or LA or Bahamas. I can already see you doing that. I know you. So no, I'm excited, Allie. But this next few weeks is all going to be, you know, Allie's preparation going into her debut coming back, and not debut, but debut post baby. And, you know, see how this happens, and everyone cheer her on. I'll be there in person to make sure she's, you know, A-okay, make sure she has all her support.
She's coming to support me this time.
But I'm coming to support her this time. So but thank you guys, everyone.
Anything you'd like to see or know or have us cover off, perhaps even Steph's reverse and then my, you know, prep, because we will be more than happy to bring that to you. We've got you know, an exciting conversation coming next week, so we'll be recording that next week once Steph's voice is back in full steam.
Sorry, y'all, for my raspiness today.
Can't thank you enough for following, you know, our respective journeys with this podcast, and you know, we'd really love to see you share, like, rate, review, and you know, let everyone and anyone know that could benefit from listening to it to tune on in. And we love hearing from you, so please give us feedback.
Really do appreciate all the support, all the love. It never goes unnoticed. And just a little quick, you know, maybe insight, our actual Instagram Queen Divas podcast page is going to start getting woken up again now that Worlds is done. We'll be able to kind of actually be action and start, you know, getting some posts on there that has not been active since we got this podcast going. Allie and I have had our hands full, her with baby George and getting him, you know, going, and being pregnant, and now, you know, obviously traveling across the world, me with prep and getting everything going. Now that Worlds is over, we're able to kind of shift our gears a little more and have a little more focus within that page as well. So we do appreciate you guys listening and following, you know, Queen Divas podcast on all the other platforms. But if you want to start tagging and sharing through the actual Instagram page, feel free, tag Allie and I, and we'll be able to start kind of getting some new content on there for you guys. I have some good stuff lined up. But thank you guys for listening, and thank you guys for, you know, watching and hearing us this far. And until next time.
See you next time, guys. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Queen Divas, Queens of Fitness podcast. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at Queen Divas Pod, on Twitter at Queen Divas 4, and follow our hosts on Instagram, Alicia at Alicia Gowans _WBFF Pro, and Steph at Stephanie Ayala 7. See you all next week.